Okay, so I've arrived at St Kilda Pier. It's about 10 minutes till sunset, and there's a possibility that we might get some good cloud cover. Okay, so I've basically set up the tripod, but I'm yet to sort of mount the NiSi filter kit. So we'll proceed to do that just in time for this thing to light up. I'm hoping to shoot after sunset to catch the twilight sky and the city lighting up in the background. Okay, so we're ready to go. Let's get the filter holder mounted on top of the 1224. Now I've already placed in the circular polarizer, and this has got the 64 ND also incorporated into that. And so we'll just offer this up to the lens here. Okay, now it's in the unlock position, and now I'll proceed to lock this on top of the lens. So there are two locking mechanisms on this S5 system. First of all, you want to make sure the little screw here is turned anti-clockwise, just a few turns there. This will allow the second locking ring to turn freely. Now in the unlock position, you'll see a gap between the filter housing and also the turning ring. In the fully locked position, you're going to see that gap close up completely. Okay, so let's open it up so we've got that gap, and then present it to the lens. Now the correct way is will allow the filter holder to drop fully onto the lens hood. Now if you're trying to present it slightly awkwardly, i.e. this way, the filter holder won't fully descend onto that. So just make sure you rotate 90 degrees if necessary. So those 4 pins there go into the recesses of the filter holder. We can now rotate that locking ring and secure the filter holder in place. And to stop that filter locking ring turning accidentally, you've got another locking ring there, and we can just turn that in, and that is now secure in place. Okay, we're now ready to present a circular polarizing filter onto this filter holder. Now I'll just lower it onto the front here. Now in order to make sure it's absolutely flat there, just give it a few turns anti-clockwise so it's spinning freely. Okay, then hold on to one of the gear wheels here on either side, and then just turn that, and it will actually screw and descend into the filter holder. You don't need to screw it in tightly, just a few turns should allow that to be secure in place like so. We can now test that is rotating properly by just turning those gear wheels, and you'll notice that circular polarizer spinning freely. We can now add the square filter holder on top, and this is a very quick fit. We just need to pull that pin out, it'll drop into place, and now that is secure. We're now free to turn the square filter holder independently of turning that circular polarizer. And this is the great benefit of the S5 system. We're able to use a polarizer, a graduated filter, an ND filter, and have complete control over both the graduated filter and the circular polarizer. Okay, immediately I'm going to have to alter the exposure here. I'm in manual exposure, so I should be able to roll that shutter speed. I'm going to select f11 as the aperture. And okay, that's f11 now, and then roll that shutter speed. Now I'm using the histogram to guide me. Okay, and so we're at 6 seconds, 8 seconds. Got our graduated neutral density filter here. This is a 3-stop filter, and I'm just going to place that in the slider just nearest the lens, or nearest the filter holder here. Okay, I have a graduated filter here, and we'll just offer that up to the filter holder. Now I would recommend using the lower of the two slots first. That's the one the closest to the lens, and then just slide that in. Okay, and that is a nice snug fit there. And again, just to demonstrate, we can rotate that independently of the circular polarizer. Okay, so now already I can start increasing that exposure, because obviously the sky was a stop or two brighter than that foreground. So this gives me the advantage now of rolling that shutter speed even more without clipping the highlights. So now I'm pushing out to the full 30 seconds, which is what I'm wanting. The water is a little bit busy for me, and I really want to pull the focus onto that middle ground there. So if I just focus, now you'll see that I'm still using autofocus, and it's focusing through that circular polarizer, the ND64, and also the 3-stop graduated filter, 3 stops. Okay, we're at 100 ISO, and I'll just do a test shot now. Now I've also got, you could put this on the 2-second timer if you wanted, or maybe 5 seconds, and I can now just do that test shot at 30 seconds. Now I've got my long exposure noise reduction switched off. I'm going to do any noise reduction in post-production. Now 30 seconds is one of my favorite long exposures if I'm just trying to remove the surface busyness from the water. I'm not looking for a misty water effect here. I'm just wanting a clean foreground so we can punch through to the distant distance, and also the middle distance, which is my pier there. Okay, so we're still going on that 30 seconds, and now I can review that file just to make sure that there's no clipping. Okay, it's done a beautiful job of clearing out that water, and now I'll just hit the display button again, just a couple of times, just to make sure there's no clipping, and there's a minimal clipping, and that should be recovered in post, no problem. So I'm already good to go now. The sun is just hitting the horizon now, and so we should get some cloud cover lighting up with those colors. Now what I might do is I just might move that focus. I'm focused on the middle distance at f11. Okay, I might move that slightly further forward now. So I'm just going to use the joystick on the A7R3 just to focus on one of those bollards in the water there. That will bring the focus point forward slightly. Okay, so that makes sure that the foreground and the middle distance and distance is sharp. If you're worried too much about that focus, you might want to push out to f16 on the full frame camera. I'm just going to take another shot now. Once I've got this established on the autofocus, I'll probably switch over to manual focus. Obviously in the twilight the sun is going to fade, and then you might find the autofocus having a little bit of a problem. Typically what I'll do is I'll use a hyperfocal distance setting. I will focus at maybe 6 meters at f16 to make sure that I've got the full depth of field that I require for this shot. And the great thing about shooting with the noise reduction off is I can quickly review this file as the light is changing quickly, just to check my exposure once again. Okay, so again, hit that display button a couple of times, and in the review mode, and again we've got a good exposure. Ideally you want to move the exposure as high as possible just before the clipping occurs. Okay, it's basically a technique called expose to the right. Okay, so one of the things that I can do now is just check I'm getting the maximum benefit from the circular polarizer. So I'm just going to spin that circular polarizer, looking for any deepening of color or removing of the surface reflections. Okay, so just back a little bit. Okay, so that's great. So I've got maximum color definition in that sky, and I might just zoom out a little bit. I'm coming out towards 14 mil now, just to try and pick up a little bit more of that color on the left side of this image. I'm just going to adjust my positioning slightly because I want maximum color there, and just lock that tripod off. Okay, so again, just checking that focus. It's still auto-focusing even though the sun is just setting now. Okay, so let's just find my remote, And again, we'll just do another exposure. I might just raise that exposure. I'm just monitoring the histogram there, noticing we're losing a little bit of light there. So I'm going to go into bulb mode now. Okay, so we're going into bulb mode, and really what I need to do now is use a stopwatch. Okay, so I'm going into bulb mode. I'm going to try as much as a minute now. We're losing light very quickly, so I'm just going to come over to my little stopwatch and set in 1 minute. So we'll just start the exposure and start timing the 1 minute. Okay, as I said, the light is fading quickly, so we need to be able to review the shot and adjust exposure accordingly. Okay, we're getting some good cloud color over on the left side of the image now, and the city is just catching the last light. We can see a couple of those skyscrapers just picking up the setting sun there. The highest that is lit up gold there is Eureka Tower. Okay, the minute exposure, there are people walking across the pier, but unless somebody freezes for that full minute, they're pretty much going to disappear with these long exposures now. There was a possibility, if I was shooting earlier in the day, of adding a third filter. I got the 64 circular polarizer plus a 3-stop grad. I could have added additional neutral density filter if I wanted to push through to these long exposures, but shooting at twilight I should be able to get the exposure I want with the two. Okay, there goes my minute, and now I can review that shot. Okay, that was just about perfect, maybe just more luck than good judgment, but now I can use that as a basis. The light will still be fading quickly, so I'm going to carry on shooting this. I might move over to manual focus now, so I'll just hit the function menu there and switch from AFS into manual focus. I'm going to carry on shooting for another 15 minutes after sunset, because really what I'm waiting for is my hero shot. I imagine is the lights on the pier lighting up, the pier house, and also the lights in the city becoming very visible. We'll also see the lights on the pier on the boardwalk there come on as well. Okay, it's a little bit like fishing this. We're waiting for the catch, and I know for a fact that in a minute's time I'll be able to review what I've caught on camera. It's really great having this system with this NiSi system, with the flexibility of that graduated neutral density filter, and also the circular polarizer with a built-in 64 ND, which is possibly my favorite strength of ND when shooting at the twilight time. Okay, so just to check out my landscape settings for alpha cameras, and you should be good to go. And it really is really a stress-free environment, and having the NiSi S5 filter kit with this 1224 certainly means that I can control the light exactly the way I want it. We're getting some nice drag on that sky, even though you don't see the clouds moving to the eye. We're getting some beautiful drag, fantail drag out from this cloud structure in the sky, and we're getting the full range from orange right through to deep blue. You can be led to underexpose these images if you're not reviewing the histogram, because as the light fades, the LCD appears brighter and brighter, which leads you to think that you're getting a good exposure when you might in fact be underexposing by a stop. I can actually push more. I might take the next one out to 3 minutes, because I've got a little bit of elbow room on the right hand side there. Okay, we're getting a little bit more of those low clouds lighting up orange now, so this might be one of the hero shots. Obviously we start shooting early, and I'm still expecting the real hero shot is going to be either this one or maybe even the next one after this. Those low clouds aren't going to pick up the color for too long, so I am confident that it's either going to be this one or the next one.